This is Ask a Couples Counsellor, a show that answers all the relationship questions you're too afraid to ask. On the show, we'll take your questions and give you the tools you need to build trust and intimacy with your partner. I'm your host, Neha Kapoor. I'm a registered clinical counsellor and psychotherapist, and I'm really passionate about helping couples navigate the challenges that we all go through. Because after all, every relationship encounters some stormy weather now and then. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask a Couples Counsellor. Today, we're delving into the complexities of relationships and emotional well-being. In this episode, we're tackling some challenging but crucial topics that many of us face in our partnerships. First, we'll explore what to do when your emotions and needs are overlooked by your partner and their family. We'll discuss clear communication, setting boundaries, and seeking support. Next, we'll identify red flags that may indicate narcissistic behavior in a partner. Lastly, we'll provide guidance on how to bring up a difficult issue with your partner, even when you're too scared. Join us for practical advice and insights to help you navigate these complex issues and strengthen your relationships. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so our first question comes from Sarah in Sydney. Let's have a listen to Sarah's question.
I was just wondering what you can do when you feel that your emotions and your needs are constantly dismissed by your partner and his family.
Great question, Sarah. Feeling like your emotions and needs are dismissed by your partner and their family, it's really challenging and really disheartening at the same time. So some steps that you can take are firstly to communicate clearly. So have a calm and honest conversation with your partner about how you feel and try using I statements to express your feelings without blaming them. So for example, you can say something like, I feel unheard when my feelings are dismissed. Or, I feel disregarded when my concerns aren't acknowledged. So using I statements is very important. Second, I would say set boundaries. Establish clear boundaries about what is acceptable and what isn't in terms of communication and behavior, because this can help you protect your emotional well-being as well. So an example of this might be something like you notice that your partner often raises their voice during disagreements, which makes you really uncomfortable. So to set a boundary, you can say something like, I need us to keep our voices calm when we discuss issues. It's important for me to feel safe and respected in our conversations. And if things get heated, let's take a break and continue when we're both calmer. So this clearly communicates what is acceptable and what isn't, and it sets a plan for how to handle situations if the boundary is crossed. So this can help protect your emotional well-being and encourage healthy communication. And the third thing that you can do is to seek support. Talk to a trusted friends, family members, or a therapist about your feelings, because they can offer support and guidance on how to navigate any specific concerns that you may have. The fourth thing that you could do is to evaluate the relationship. So consider if this relationship meets your emotional needs and whether your partner is willing to work on improving communication and understanding. And try and focus on self-care. So take care of yourself emotionally and physically and engage in activities that bring you joy and help you feel centered. And consider counseling, and specifically couples counseling, because couples counseling can provide a safe space for both partners to discuss issues and work towards better communication and understanding. And if you find that all of these efforts are not making a difference and your emotional well-being is at risk, it may be worth reconsidering the relationship, because your feelings and your needs are important and you do deserve to be acknowledged and respected. I hope that answers your question. Let's get into our second question for today, which comes from Ryan in Sydney. And let's have a listen to Ryan's question.
My question is, how do you spot or what are some red flags for narcissistic behavior in your partner?
Another great question, Ryan. Look, spotting narcissistic behavior in a partner can be incredibly challenging, especially if the signs are subtle. However, I'm going to give you some common red flags that may indicate narcissistic traits, and I'll only give you 5, but there are many more. So the first one is lack of empathy. So narcissists often struggle to understand or care about other people's feelings, and they may dismiss or minimize your emotions and needs. So I'll give you an example of this. Imagine that you come home from a tough day at work and you share with your partner that you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed because a project didn't go well and your boss criticized your performance. So instead of offering support or understanding, your partner responds dismissively, saying something like, "You're just overreacting. It's not that big of a deal. Why are you always so sensitive? Just get over it." So your partner is not acknowledging your feelings or showing understanding. Instead, they minimize your emotions, imply that your reaction is unwarranted or exaggerated, and this lack of empathy can make you feel unheard and unsupported, further compounding your stress and frustration. The second one is sense of entitlement. So narcissists often believe that they deserve special treatment and may become angry or impatient when they don't get it. And they might expect others to go out of their way for them. So an example of this might be, say that you're at a restaurant with your partner and the place is busy. And when the waiter explains that there might be a longer wait for your food, your partner responds with irritation. So they say something like, "This is unacceptable. Why should we have to wait? We should be served first because we're paying good money to eat here. Why aren't they prioritizing us?" So as you can see that your partner expects special treatment, believing that they deserve faster service than others. And their reaction shows impatience and an inflated sense of importance, expecting the restaurant staff to prioritize them over other customers without a valid reason. The third one is manipulative behavior. This is a massive red flag. They might use manipulative tactics such as guilt tripping, gaslighting, or playing the victim to control or influence others. So an example of this might be, say, suppose you tell your partner that you're planning to spend a weekend with your friends, something that you've been really looking forward to for a while, and your partner responds by saying, "Sure, go have fun with your friends. I'll just stay here and be lonely. I guess I'm not as important to you as they are, but don't worry about me. I'll manage somehow." So you can see that your partner is using guilt tripping to manipulate you into feeling bad about your plans. And they're playing the victim to make you feel guilty and potentially change your plans to stay with them instead. Now, this tactic is designed to control your actions by appealing to your sense of empathy and responsibility, a very common tactic that narcissists use. The fourth might be a lack of accountability. Narcissists often refuse to take responsibility for their actions, blaming others instead, and they may deflect, criticize, and deny any wrongdoings. And I'll give you an example of this. So say that you and your partner are supposed to attend an important event together, but they forget the date and you both miss it. Now, when you bring this up with your partner, they respond by saying something like, "Well, you should have reminded me. It's not my fault I didn't remember. You know how busy I am." So in this situation, instead of acknowledging their oversight, your partner shifts the blame onto you, implying that it's your responsibility to manage their schedule, and they refuse to take responsibility for their mistakes, deflecting any criticism or accountability. And the fifth one is intense reactions to criticism. Now, this one I've seen quite a lot. Narcissists often react very strongly to criticism, becoming defensive, angry, or even hostile. And they may perceive any form of feedback as a personal attack. So say, for example, you gently suggest to your partner that they could improve their communication skills at work, noting that you've noticed some misunderstandings with their colleagues. Now, instead of considering your feedback, your partner responds angrily. So they say something like, "How dare you criticize me? You think you're so perfect, but you're not. Maybe you should focus on fixing your own issues before pointing out mine. You don't know what you're talking about." Now, in this scenario, you can see that your partner becomes defensive and hostile, reacting as though your constructive feedback is a personal attack. And they lash out and turn the criticism back onto you, deflecting any responsibility and avoiding self-reflection. And this kind of response makes it really difficult to have open and honest conversations, because narcissists may perceive any suggestion for improvement as an insult to their self-image. And there are other red flags as well, things like lack of long-term friendships, emotional exploitation. So they might use emotions to manipulate or control you, exploiting your vulnerabilities for their gain. Boundary violations. So narcissists may have like difficulty respecting other people's boundaries, pushing their needs and desires over others. Excessive focus on appearance. This one I've seen a lot as well. They may be overly concerned with their physical appearance and how others perceive them. And this can kind of extend to preoccupation with their status, their wealth, and their power. And there are many others as well, but these are just a few. But if you recognize several of these red flags in your partner, it might be worth considering the dynamics of your relationship and whether it is a healthy one for you. Because remember, setting boundaries, seeking support from friends, family, or a therapist, and prioritizing your well-being are really important steps in dealing with a potentially narcissistic partner. All right, our last question comes from Michaela, and let's have a listen to Michaela's question.
My name is Michaela, and my question is, how do you bring up an issue in which you're too scared to speak to your partner about?
Great question, Michaela. Look, Michaela, bringing up a difficult issue with your partner, especially when you're scared, can be very daunting. So I'll give you some steps to help you approach the conversation. So the thing that I would start with is preparing yourself mentally and emotionally. So take some time to understand your feelings and what you want to communicate. You could journal or talk to a trusted friend or a therapist who can help you clarify your thoughts. The second thing that I would say is choose the right time and place. So find a quiet, private setting where you both feel comfortable and try to avoid times when either of you is stressed, tired, or in a hurry. Okay? The third thing that you could do is start with positive intentions. So begin the conversation by expressing your love and commitment to the relationship, because this helps you set a positive tone and reassures your partner that your intentions are constructive. And once you start the conversation, make sure that you use I statements. So frame your concerns using I statements to focus on your feelings rather than blaming your partner. For example, say something like, I feel worried when, instead of saying you always or you never. Never use imperatives like that. The other thing that you could do is be clear and specific. So clearly state the issue and how it affects you, and avoid being vague or bringing up past grievances unless they are directly related to the current issue. And I know this is hard to do, but stay calm and respectful. Keep your tone calm and respectful even if the conversation becomes emotional. And if either of you starts to feel overwhelmed, suggest taking a break and returning to the discussion later. And what you could also do is to try and listen actively. Allow your partner to respond and listen to their perspective without interrupting, even if you don't agree with it. This shows that you value their feelings and opinions. And try and express your needs and desires clearly. Clearly communicate what you need or hope from the conversation, whether it's a change in behavior, more understanding, or simply being heard or being specific about what you want to communicate can help your partner know how to respond. And try and have an open dialogue. So be open to discussing the issue and finding a solution together, because it's important to work as a team to address any problems. And if needed, seek support. So if the issue is particularly sensitive, or if you're afraid of your partner's reaction, consider seeking support from a therapist or a counselor, because what they can do is that they can provide guidance and help facilitate the conversation in a more safe and supportive environment. And remember, addressing difficult issues is a normal part of any relationship. And while it may be uncomfortable, open and honest communication is essential for a healthy partnership. I hope that answers your question, Michaela. All right, that's it for today. And before I go, if you have any burning questions you want answered, send them to novoempowercounselling@gmail.com. Let's navigate this journey together, because better relationships start with understanding. I can't wait to hear from you. You've been listening to Ask a Couples Counsellor, a show that answers all the relationship questions you're too afraid to ask. This show is produced by novoempowercounselling. We provide a range of services, including couples counselling, individual counselling, and online counselling. To find out more, visit our website novoempowercounselling.com.au. This show was produced with strategy and production support from Wavelength Creative. To make sure you don't miss an episode of Ask a Couples Counsellor, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm your host, Neha Kapoor, and I'll see you in the next episode.